Everyone's talking about the differences between Claude and ChatGPT. So today we're going to do a little test and compare the two on a couple of, basic teacher tasks that you may want to do from day to day. Now, for my podcast listeners, I'm going to describe what I'm going to do, but like I said, I am recording the desktop video when I go through the steps and the actions, and it'll actually be on the YouTube channel. So do head over there if you want to actually have a look at what I actually produced. Otherwise, I will explain it the best I can without spending too long on that. We're going to go through a couple of tasks I decided to do for myself as a test, and a couple of questions which I found on one of the AI teacher chat groups that people didn't know how to do. And those ones we're actually going to do live. The first two I've actually already gone through and done them. We'll compare how they go. So let's get into it. Here we are with the desktop. One of the first tasks we do, I was talking about this with a colleague. Can I generate revision material or summary information very quickly? Now, like I said, I've already done this. So I've got one version in ChatGPT. I've got a paid version of Claude. Close that window down. So I've got two different versions here. Both are actually paid accounts. So I said I've taken on paying for Claude as just to compare the differences between them. So first thing, this was actually, we wanted to get some information on the Russian Revolution, the period between creation of provisional government and October Revolution. And we wanted to get information basically on the actions of the provisional government and the actions of the Bolsheviks and what sort of led to the revolution. Quite simple. Now, I'm not going to go through it because obviously you might be interested in history, but we'll just look at the different level of content and information come back. And both of them did bring back accurate information. So we've got the provisional government, a fairly big paragraph here, and the Bolsheviks. And then I asked her to put it in a dot point format, so it's easy to read. So I've got all the dot point section here. And then which led to the revolution. So I've got a few dot points there. Okay. Write me a prompt where I can upload senior school essay. Ignore that. Okay, stop there. So there were those two, and that's basically what that was produced there. Now, if I go look at exactly the same prompt, put into Claude, the amount of content we get back here, they've divided up a little bit better, and Claude does tend to do that. It tends to create these subcategories. So it's got a lot of the historical context, key actions, impacts outcome for both. A little bit easy to read. And the summary of regular revolution, then I asked her to put in a dot point summary. And the amount of detail thing is actually far less you get in ChatGPT. And I've found this in my area of history is the simple fact that ChatGPT at this stage is able to extract a lot more information than what Claude does at this point. Now, this was just going on its own knowledge. I didn't give any upload documents, background information, or context whatsoever. So it's straight off a cold prompt. And so it's a lot shorter. Looking at that test, I'd give that to ChatGPT between the two of them. Now, the next one was a bit different. So I thought, hold it. I'm not teaching at the moment. I thought, hey, can I create a graphic organizer on the Industrial Revolution to supply those to my students? A graphic organizer is absolutely fantastic in whatever subject you're in. I was listening to a podcast the other day on Doug Lemov, was interviewing a chap, and it reminded me how good graphic organizers were. So I thought, hey, can I make one? So the way I actually did it this time is I uploaded the document. This is from our curriculum authority. And this is the Industrial Revolution. What I did is I said, okay, I want to create an organizer, graphic organizer for the Industrial Revolution. It's going to be double-sided A3 sheet for students to use throughout the unit. A lot of typos in there. But we're interested in key information such as timeline, key dates, key people, events, inventions, and other related context for the Industrial Revolution. So what ChatGPT does, it actually goes through and creates a summary first. It goes through an organizer, looks at the basic information, key terms, key people, and so on. Key inventions, puts them in a nice little table for me. Key events, development, causes, effects, and so on. Once again, lots of information. Now, this time it's actually extracting out of my curriculum document, so it is pretty much on the ball, a lot more detailed. Now, it's suggested here for side A, side B, what areas I should actually put on this and do it. Okay, so I actually ran through again. I scared to see if I get different answers out of that. key people, and so on. So we don't want to get stuck down in what sure the content is here. Key social groups. There's a lot of information. You can see it's referencing the document as we go through, which is quite handy. Okay, go to the next step. What we actually want to do is actually create the organizer for us. Now, what it does, ChatGPT doesn't actually create it graphically unless you explicitly tell it to do. So it's got box 1, it's got all the information here, so I can copy and paste that in there. Same with box 2 and so on. So it arranges all the content for me, which I do quite like. And then I can go off to Canva and build it. No worries at all. It's got a few extra points in there. And then I thought, hold up, can I do a little bit more with this? And so there's a lot of content here, and it'd take a bit to organize that. So what I said here, look, I thought we want to make it a complete reference tool because it'll give me words without definitions. So I told it, okay, add the definitions and things in there. So I came back, we've got dates, more definitions, information, which we didn't have the first time around. We just had the words going through, like I said, the actual content. Okay, remove the reference to exemplar, which is in there, such as this definition is given directly in the exemplar. We don't need that for our content. Saves me having to do it. So I got it to redo it again for me. And then it said, look, this is too, and what it did, created, asked to export it as a PowerPoint for me. I'll just play this here. And this is actually what it made. This isn't very good graphically. I mean, it's got the information in there. It's not set out very well. You have to do a lot of modifications for that. So I asked it to do here, make it a simpler version, low literacy class, engage. Yep, the right one there. So it made a bit more boxes color coded. So this was aimed at a lower literacy class. Like I said, things like key people, steam engine. The formatting isn't very good. It's really basic. Like I said, I don't create PowerPoints in chat. Also, little things like this, like the boxes aren't in a line and things like that, things that would really annoy you. So that was the simple version. And then I said, look, then I said, it's too simple for a mixed year 8 class literacy, somewhere in between. And we developed this one. Once again, it's really basic. I'd have to do a lot of editing, a lot of changes for that. So I stopped playing with it at that point. And I thought, okay. I jumped on the Claude. Can't do it now. When I was getting ready for this, I actually reset the Claude chat again earlier on. And as a result, I actually lost all the work I did. But I'll show you what the outcome was. And like I said, I got to do a bit of a section here. Whereas the first time I did it, and that's what I found, I'll show the example. This is what it made here, is it creates this as a HTML file. And then that's fantastic, but what am I going to do with that for my students? It's a bit of a pain to print. So I asked to do a PowerPoint. So the first thing it did do was create a HTML file. And I'll jump out into Safari because I've what I'll jump out into Safari, and this is what it made for me in the first run. Now, okay, it's got a timeline there. It's got a very map of the coalfields of England, which is fairly good. It's got agricultural revolution. It's got these inventions, and they're all super tiny, really hard to read. Important people. So it's got all the main bit, and it's honestly straight off. It's actually a better looking presentation file than what ChatGPT actually did. I said, obviously, I went back and said, well, that's not good enough. And I asked it to export as a PowerPoint file. So this is the first PowerPoint file that it made. And this is too messy. Like, I'd have to come back and change a lot of the bits and pieces. Like I said, it's crammed a lot in there. The text is a lot bigger. It's a lot larger. It's easier to read. Industrial cities here. So key people, industrial revolution. Remember, this was basically built off my curriculum document. And the second page is, okay, we've got the cause of the Industrial Revolution. Lots of content here, really too much, particularly for a low literacy or a year 8 class. And if you look at this box down the bottom here, it's totally a jumble. It's actually missing lots and lots of things. So I actually asked it again to do a simpler version. And this is what came out. And I also asked it to add some pictures in. So this is what came out. This was for a low literacy or a simple one. There's still lots of problems with the formatting and things around it. But like I said, it's got some pictures in there. I need to redo the styling. It's got key people there. It's done the agricultural revolution differently in this one. I liked it better on the other one. Why did it start? So it's got a set. So it's got a saying there to do. What were the effects? This is much better. Keyword simple definitions much better down there. Unusual jobs for the era. So let's put that in there as well. The role of men, women, and children. Except as a starting point, this is really good. Honestly, I don't like the browns and the blacks and things like that. Well, what I could do is then come in and start editing this and changing it as I saw fit, because it's a PowerPoint file. So looking at these two, I say, yes, I could actually design a graphic organizer with the correct curriculum documents or course program material from this. And like I said, this isn't a finished one, but like I said, as a first run, because graphic organizers can take a long time to design, it will do it. On the flip side of that, with ChatGPT, if I've got a nice template already in Canva, I'm just going to be copying and pasting that content in there, which I normally do because, like I said, then I can control the styling and the way it actually presents, the font size and everything else. A bit more work, but like I said, by the time I go through this, it's probably the same amount of work on that as well. What we've got here, someone put this question up. Is there a site that will generate a revision workbook when I enter text looking for something that will create a crossword, ding back, rebus, match up activities, short exam? So from text I enter. So for the text, I've got the same text as both. I'm going to hit start. And we'll see how it works its way through. And like I said, this is basic prompt. The idea of doing this side by side is you can have a bit of a comparison. So I've got the crossword here. Crossword answers this, but we've got no crossword. Simple crossword class revision. Okay, dim back activity. The text bait rebus clues. Text answer key, matchup activities. And we've got some short questions and answer there. Course consequence versions. So once again, ChatGPT is giving us all this text very quickly that we can then move into another program to actually use it again. Okay. Yeah. The actual worksheet made to print out either in PowerPoint or Word. Let's see what it comes up with. We'll ask it, see if it can actually create these visually for us. Like I said, ChatGPT will respond much quicker. It's going to turn it into printable resources for me. And Claude is obviously working its way through it. And I'm expecting Claude to actually create a visual interface straight away for this. Oh, Claude failed in this task. Okay. Maybe it was too many things. Maybe it's trying to create the crossword here. Anyway, we'll give it another go and see what it can do. Like I said, this is a live demonstration between the two of them. It's not to say this is one or the other is better. It's just that in terms of response times and what it actually outputs with minimal input, this is actually a good way of testing. So I think I'll cut it here for a minute and then we'll wait till it comes back. So you're not sitting here watching the screen's doing something not very exciting. I'm back after a small break, and like I said, I let them run for a little while. And what they did, ChatGPT took 13 minutes and 2 seconds to develop those download packs. And I don't know about Claude, it hasn't given me a time on that, but it took just as long, a fairly long time. I just went out for a little while and come back. So having a look at the two of them, what Claude has made this crossword here. I can type some things in there. That's pretty cool. That's made some dingbats, which is the shapes and things to actually create an answer there. It's got a matchup activity. Oh yeah, this is pretty good. So this is all HTML on the right. I can go that through. It's also putting some exam questions in there, which is good. And this is actually what I like about Claude, especially when it does HTML. I know sharing HTML file can be a real pain, but like I said, this type of arrangement can be quite handy depending on who your class is. And I could probably ask it to create a offline, I guess, PDF version. I'll let that run in the background. So I'll turn that into a PDF. And while the interactive one is very good, if you just need to print it out, that's also good as well. So looking at that. And I've downloaded the worksheet pack for this, and it's in Word. And what they've done, similar sort of things, offload, offline. Can't really type in there. They're all a bit small, but you could do it if you wanted to. So if we look at what ChatGPT made, it's exported as a Word version. I've got student name, got questions here. It's got crossword clues down here, which really isn't the best. I'd have to try and bring those up somehow. Make it a bit easier to do that. Doesn't look very good. I've actually got a crossword generator if I want to make something for someone else created, which I can do. Some dingback and Rubus puzzles. Some matchup activities. And NSP government. Yep, and they're all mixed up. Going through there, match up some actions and consequences, some questions, a marking key, which is always really nice, and answers there. So that's quite good for that. We haven't got the marking key and things for this one. Let's see, check answers. No, I haven't got it. I'll go reveal. I can put my answers in there as well. Both do the job, and they're not perfect. But like I said, it took a long time to actually do that. Going through. Still working through making a PDF download version there. Like I said, Claude is a lot slower doing things, which is than ChatGPT. But like I said, the visual quality of it is a lot higher when it actually comes out, which is quite good. Now I had one more question here someone did. That's what they did was, the question was, I was looking at to upload a one page from a book, create a new reading level, and turn it into a closed reading assignment. Is there an app you can do these and these tasks? I have one student falling behind. So that was the question that was put up. The actual document here is Australian Government Federation from Parliamentary Education Officer, just about Australian Federation. So let's just modify this question. And essentially, can these two apps actually do what this person wants? Of course, on Federation, level. For I put year 5 students. I turn in a class reading activity. So we'll do that. We'll hit go. We'll hit go on this one. And like I said, we'll go through. While that's happening, we've got our PDF oversight is. I do a feature factor in here, which is quite nice. Just download the PDF there. It's not bad. It's essentially the same thing, the color coding and things. Like I said, it seems to be, I haven't really played with it, but this color coding is really what seems to be Claude defaults to, which I don't really like the selection, but like I said, beggars can't be choosers. You're beginning to do all the work for you. Anyway, let's get back to our next one. ChatGPT has already finished this. I've got our Federation document there. Let's show you what it looks like. Oops. So it looks like this is a single one-page document, really aimed at high school students. And whereas I've here reduced it down, much simpler for year 5s to actually read that. Word bank here and a closed activity can do that. So I've got the F, that's nice and done. Claude is still doing this. Like I said, they're both on thinking, which is obviously the more elaborate or higher level model. So more thinking is involved. But like I said, ChatGPT is much better at doing this than what Claude does if there's time constraints around that. Well, the difference is Claude will probably make this a really nice document. Okay, now let's ask create, complete, activity, exported, we'll do Word, just download it. So nation buildings, the text is a lot more complex than what we've got over here. So if I was looking for a lower level class, natives, constitution, people in the colonies voted. Okay, so this is, I think, it's probably done a better job for a mixed or low level class, year 5 reading. So this is still a lot more in depth. So we got vocabulary builder, which is a bit different, which is nice to put in there. And it's finding the facts. So we've got some comprehension questions in there, which it actually didn't ask it to do. I actually asked for a closed activity. And it hasn't done a closed activity. No, so it hasn't actually done what it does. So what I find Claude does these resources. They're quite good, but they're also quite a high level and they're quite boring for our students. So if we have a look back at, okay, I asked you to create. So it looks like Claude's, I've noticed, has these default, I guess on its model, default responses it puts through. Okay, we're creating the export there. And this is the last activity we're going to do today anyway. Looking at this, because it's gone for a little while, don't want to have a chat, but I think I'll do a bit more of these of questions people are always asking and then actually make an episode about it. Because like I said, it's about practical tips and activities that we can do straight away. And like I said, I'm not using the full prompt model that I'd normally do. I'm just showing what an inexperienced user might do to just try and get some sort of response or resource actually out of the two different AI platforms without too much thought. So I'll probably stop it here in a minute and we'll pop back in once they've both generated their output. Okay, we're back again. Both the documents actually have been created. In this case, because I obviously asked it to do one particular task, by generating this, it actually did much faster than ChatGPT did. It told me it's got a 15-word blank, Federation content rewritten to a Year 5 level, 3 bonus questions for early finishers, which is nice, and an answer key. Let's have a look at this one first. Close reading blue theme, got keywords in there. So yeah, that is a closed activity. Went a bit over the page. I don't like the words up the top, but like I said, if you're in a rush or you need to do something fairly quickly, this actually does the thing for you. Take out, you can then add it to whatever you wish to do. Bonus questions and answer key down the bottom if you've got a teacher's copy. Yeah, this is the one this is the output that was out of ChatGPT. Styling, similar, but different. Once again, I don't really like that at the top. I would change that. Reading the text, some basic information there, bit of a word bank on there. They've got the close activity once again up the top. I prefer to put it to the side. I have to change that. And some comprehension questions, as well as an extension task of putting those in the correct order of events happen. So it's in chronological work and an answer key. So we're looking at both these. When we're looking at both these different platforms, they both do the job. And they both got their challenges and shortcomings as well that actually come out of them. Like I said, as first draft, this is fairly good, or you're chasing some different ideas. What you could do is, instead of creating a document, ask it to generate an image or something, you can then use that as inspiration to go build it in Canva or some or PowerPoint, whatever you prefer to make your resources in. So that's a quick run through of these two different platforms. I'll do a couple more of these. So hopefully you found this useful. Like I said, if you're doing this, share the podcast or the YouTube channel with your colleagues and your friends and say, look, there might be something helpful for them on there, the different episodes, the different things we cover. And until then, obviously keep up the good work. If you listen to the podcast, jump on the YouTube. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can skim through and have a look at what the actual outputs look like. So obviously I'll give it a bit more meaning. And don't forget to subscribe to my mailing list. I'm working on some things around that to give more support for teachers. And I'd love for you to sign up and see what's available. And I'll talk to you all soon. Till then, keep up the good work, keep experimenting, and look after yourself.